Welcome to my channel, Tales from True Ground, where every story is brought to life through my original illustrations and inspired by real places and events. Each image you'll see is crafted by me, designed to pull you deeper into the world you're about to experience. These visuals aren't just part of the background. They reflect the eerie, the unsettling, and the mysterious moments tied to history itself. So, sit back and let my art and storytelling guide you through a journey rooted in reality, yet shrouded in the unknown. Kabul, Afghanistan, August 2021. The world watched in disbelief as the US military began its rapid withdrawal, leaving behind chaos and fear. Thousands scrambled for their lives, desperate to catch the last flights out. But for Daniel Monroe, a civilian contractor who'd spent years in the country, the nightmare was just beginning. As the hours ticked down, Daniel realized he might be trapped. Forever. For Daniel, it should have been a routine evacuation. He had worked with the US military, helping rebuild infrastructure across Afghanistan. Now it was time to go home. But something went wrong. Amid the confusion and panic, his name, his paperwork, somehow got lost. The flights were taking off one by one, and Daniel was stuck, just another face in the crowd. He had always known Afghanistan was dangerous, but this was different. The city was collapsing in on itself, the Taliban growing closer by the hour. Daniel had seen war before, but he'd never felt this kind of fear, an oppressive, suffocating dread that clawed at his every step. The locals he had worked alongside for years had disappeared, and now he was truly alone. Panic washed over him. The airport gates were closing, and the last military convoy was preparing to leave. Desperation set in, his breath coming in ragged gasps as he pushed his way toward the airfield, only to find the gates shut. Behind him, the city grew darker, quieter. That's when Daniel noticed something strange. The streets, once packed with desperate crowds, were now empty. Not a single person in sight. The silence was unnerving. It was as if the city itself had gone to sleep, or worse, was watching him. Shadows flickered in the corners of his vision. At first, he thought they were just the remnants of his mind playing tricks, but then he heard them. Faint whispers, coming from nowhere and everywhere at once. They weren't in English. They weren't in any language he knew. But they called to him, taunting, beckoning. His heart pounded in his chest as the whispers swirled around him. They felt wrong, not human, not alive. He spun in circles trying to locate the source, but there was nothing. Only shadows. His pulse quickened. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching him. Something that had been left behind in the ruins of this war-torn city. Something ancient and hungry. Daniel was on his own. His phone was dead, his way out was blocked, and the city, now a ghost town, was closing in on him. That's when he saw it. A figure standing in the middle of the street, motionless. At first he thought it was a soldier, maybe someone who had been left behind like him. But as he squinted through the darkness, his blood ran cold. The figure moved, but not like a person. Its movements were jerky, wrong, like a puppet pulled by invisible strings. Daniel's breath caught in his throat as the figure's face came into view. Its eyes were hollow, its mouth twisted in an unnatural grin. But worst of all, it wasn't alone. More figures began to emerge from the darkness, silent, watching him with lifeless eyes. His heart pounded as they closed in. These weren't the Taliban. They weren't even human. These were the souls of those left behind, the forgotten, the damned. They had been waiting for someone like Daniel to join them in the eternal darkness. Daniel ran, but no matter how fast he moved, the figures were always there, lurking just beyond the edge of the shadows. His lungs burned, his legs screamed for relief, but he couldn't stop. He wouldn't stop. Not here, not now. But with every turn, every dead end, the city seemed to twist around him, leading him deeper into its dark, cursed heart. Just as hope seemed lost, Daniel spotted it. The last plane, the final lifeline out of this nightmare. But the figures were closing in, their cold eyes locked onto him. With every ounce of strength left in his body, he sprinted for the fence, tearing at the barbed wire, his skin ripping, blood mixing with sweat. He didn't care. He had to get out. With one final burst of energy, Daniel ran for the plane, waving his arms, screaming for help. The ramp began to close, the engines roaring louder as the plane prepared for takeoff. And just as he reached the base of the ramp, a hand shot out from the shadows, cold and skeletal, grabbing his ankle. For a brief, agonizing moment, Daniel felt the cold grip of the Forgotten pulling him down, dragging him into the abyss. But with a final desperate kick, he broke free, scrambling up the ramp just as it sealed shut behind him. As the plane ascended into the dark sky, Daniel stared out the window at the shrinking silhouette of Kabul. He had made it out, but not everyone did. And somewhere, down in those haunted streets, the Forgotten still wait, watching, whispering, hungry for those who dare to be left behind. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more creepy tales based on real places and events, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'm always working on new content to keep you on edge. And if there's a particular real-life event you'd like to hear a scary story about, let me know in the comments. I'm always up for new ideas. Until next time, stay curious and stay cautious.